Look, I'm just going to say this up front. I didn't know it was a big deal. Nobody told me the shiny floaty sword was some kind of sacred artifact or whatever. The work order said, gravity fluctuations in Vault 7, investigate and repair. So I investigated. And repaired. That's literally my job. But apparently, I need to write this whole thing up, because Commander Snow has her webbed fingers in a twist. So here we go. I showed up at the weapons vault around 600 hours with my toolkit and a breakfast burrito. Standard stuff. The vault door was already open. Guess the night shift figured they'd save me the trouble. And I walked in to find this hexagonal room with a bunch of pedestals glowing amber. Pretty fancy for what I assumed was just another storage closet with delusions of grandeur. The gravity felt weird immediately. Not broken weird, just inconsistent weird. Like when you're walking and you think there's one more step, but there isn't, except it's happening with every step. I pulled out my scanner and started getting readings that made absolutely no sense. Fluctuating between 0.8 and 1.4 standard Gs every few seconds. No wonder people were complaining about vertigo near this section. The source was pretty obvious once I traced it. Center pedestal, big dramatic spotlight from above, and this sword-looking thing just floating there about 3 feet off its base. Spinning slowly, very theatrical. I figured the gravity lock must have glitched and was overcorrecting, causing the fluctuations throughout the whole vault, so I walked over to take a look at the pedestal controls. That's when Loxo showed up. I'd seen Calaxians around the station before, but Loxo was particularly tall. Had to be at least 7 feet of moist amphibian anxiety. His skin was doing that blue-green thing they do when they're calm, though his 3 eyes were all locked onto me in a way that seemed a little intense for 0600 on a Tuesday. The 2 front ones were wide, and that weird top. I was doing this slow rotation thing that I'm pretty sure meant he was scanning the whole room. Human, he said, and his voice had this wet quality to it, like he was talking through a mouthful of water. Step away from the gravity blade. The what now? I was already crouched down by the pedestal, poking at the control panel with my multi-tool. The gravity blade. He said it slower this time, like I was stupid. The most dangerous weapon in the Calaxian arsenal, forged in the gravity well of a collapsing star. It has slain the enemies of 17 worlds. No warrior has ever mastered its weight. Many have died trying to... Are you touching the pedestal? Yeah, the gravity lock's busted. Give me a second. His skin flickered orange. Just patches at first, spreading across his arms. The lock is not malfunctioning. It is set to maximum security because the blade cannot be contained through normal means. You must not... The pedestal beeped, and the sword dropped 6 inches before the gravity field caught it again. Loxo's skin went full orange, like traffic cone orange. His throat sac inflated to the size of a grapefruit, and he made this croaking sound that echoed off the reinforced walls. Stop! Do not adjust the... Dude, relax. I'm just recalibrating the graviton emitters. This thing's oscillating frequency is all over the place. Probably somebody spilled coffee on it or something. I twisted 2 more controls and the sword dropped another foot. The amber warning lights around the room started flashing faster. Loxo lunged forward. Well, he tried to lunge. What actually happened was his webbed feet hit a puddle of something slick on the floor. Pretty sure it was coming from his own skin at this point. And he went down hard. All 7 feet of panicked amphibian warrior hit the deck with a wet smacking sound that would have been hilarious if he hadn't looked so genuinely terrified. Please, he gasped from the floor, one webbed hand reaching toward me. His skin was doing this rapid color shift between orange and red now, flickering like a broken traffic light. You do not understand what you are doing. The gravity blade weighs more than a small spacecraft. Its gravitational field can crush bones, warp metal. If you disable the containment, it will fall and destroy everything below it, possibly including the structural integrity of this entire section. I popped the panel cover off and immediately saw the problem. Oh, there's your issue. Somebody installed a Type 7 graviton regulator. You need a Type 9 for anything over 50,000 kilograms. This thing's been working overtime for probably months. 50,000? Loxo tried to get up, slipped again, in what was now definitely a growing pool of stress slime, and sort of skidded closer to me on his belly. His dorsal crest was standing straight up. That is not the weight. The blade mass is over 400,000. I wasn't really listening anymore because I'd found a spare Type 9 in my toolkit and was already swapping it out. The sword dropped again, caught, then stabilized about a foot off the pedestal. Much better. The gravity fluctuations in the room immediately smoothed out. I could feel it in my inner ear. Everything settled into a nice, consistent 1.0 G. There we go. Easy fix. I stood up, brushed some dust off my jumpsuit, and reached out to grab the sword so I could check if the pedestal itself was damaged underneath. The thing about the moment that followed is that it happened really fast, but also seemed to take forever. You know that feeling? My fingers wrapped around the handle, which was surprisingly warm, almost hot, and I lifted it off the gravity field. It was heavy, sure, like holding a full toolbox with one hand kind of heavy. Awkward weight distribution, definitely, but nothing crazy. Loxo made a sound that I didn't know Quilaxians could make. It was somewhere between a scream, a croak, and the sound of air being let out of a balloon. His skin flashed bright red. Not just red, bright red, like emergency flare red. And he started secreting so much slime that he was basically hydroplaning across the floor, all three eyes blinking rapid fire, his throat sac inflating and deflating like a broken accordion. "It should be impossible," he wheezed. "You should be crushed. Your bones should be powder. Dude, seriously, are you okay? You're like really red right now." I turned the blade over in my hand, checking the pedestal surface beneath where it had been floating. Little scorch mark, but nothing serious. "And you're leaking everywhere. Should I call medical?" Loxo had managed to prop himself up against one of the other pedestals, leaving a trail of slime like the world's most panicked snail. All three of his eyes were fixed on the blade in my hand. His webbed fingers were gripping the pedestal edge so hard, they'd gone pale green. How are you holding it?" With my hand, I gave it a little toss. Just a few inches, caught it again, wanted to feel the balance point. Weight distribution's weird, but it's not that bad. The toss made Loxo's eyes go in 3 different directions. I was genuinely worried he was having a stroke. More slime pooled beneath him. The dorsal crest was vibrating. "You tossed it." "Like 2 inches, yeah. You tossed the gravity blade. I mean, if we're being pedantic, I guess it was more of a little flip." "Our strongest warriors cannot lift it from the ground." His throat sac was doing something truly weird now, inflating in pulses. The last soldier, who attempted to wield it, had both arms torn from their sockets by the gravitational stress. Before that, 3 warriors were crushed when they tried to move it in tandem. We require industrial anti-grav sleds just to transport it between stations, and even then, we lose equipment to the gravitational shear. And you are tossing it. I looked down at the sword, back at Loxo, back at the sword. Are we talking about the same thing?" This sword. Yes. This sword right here in my hand. Yes. The one I'm currently holding with 2 fingers. I held it up, balanced on my index and middle finger to illustrate the point. It wobbled a bit, but held steady. Loxo made that balloon deflating sound again. His skin flickered between red and what I can only describe as panic white. More slime. So much slime. The floor was becoming a legitimate slip hazard. Okay, look, I said, starting to feel like maybe I was missing something. I'm just going to put it back and... No. Loxo tried to stand, slipped immediately, caught himself on the pedestal. Do not. The gravitational field is not. If you drop it without the field active. I'm not going to drop it, man. I'm a professional. I leaned over and gently set the sword back on the pedestal, then reactivated the gravity lock with the fresh Type 9 regulator. The blade floated up smoothly to its original position and started that slow, theatrical spin again. See? Good as new. No more fluctuations. Loxo was just staring at me now. All 3 eyes, unblinking. His skin had settled into a kind of shocked coral color I hadn't seen before. The slime production had slowed to a steady ooze instead of a full panic flood. I packed up my toolkit and grabbed what was left of my breakfast burrito. So, I'm going to mark this work order as complete. The graviton regulator should hold for another few years, but you might want to schedule regular maintenance checks. These vaults put a lot of stress on the gravity systems. Loxo's voice was barely a whisper. You have been in this vault before. Sure, couple times. Why? When? I pulled out my datapad and checked my work history. Looks like I replaced some lighting panels in here about 3 months ago, and I fixed a humidity sensor maybe 6 months before that. Oh, and there was that one time the door lock jammed and I had to... The lighting panels. His top eye rotated to focus on the ceiling while the other 2 stayed locked on me. The ones directly above the gravity blade. Yeah, the fixtures up there. Had to climb on the pedestal to reach them. Why? Loxo's throat sac inflated one more time, then deflated with a long, defeated wheeze. Nothing. No reason. Cool. Well, I've got a backed-up waste recycler on deck 9 calling my name, so... I headed for the door, then remembered something, and turned back. Oh, hey, random question. That sword thingy makes a pretty good test weight. I've been using it during my lunch breaks to calibrate some of my gravity tools. You know, just juggling it a bit to check the field variance on my portable scanner. That's cool, right? I don't speak Quilaxian, but I'm pretty sure the sound Loxo made translates roughly to what? His skin went from coral to bright red, to a color I'm going to call existential crisis purple. He tried to stand, slipped in the slime puddle that now covered about a quarter of the vault floor, and just sort of gave up halfway through. His dorsal crest flopped over sideways. Juggling, he repeated, his voice hollow. You have been juggling the gravity blade. I mean, just with 2 of them. Haven't managed 3 yet. I took a bite of burrito. Gets tricky with the weight distribution, but I'm getting pretty good at it. Almost got 5 rotations yesterday, before I had to catch it with my foot. Loxo's 3 eyes rolled back. For a second, I thought he'd actually passed out, but then his throat sac started doing this rapid flutter thing that might have been hyperventilating. You should probably see medical about all that slime, I said, gesturing at the puddle. And maybe someone should mop this before it becomes a safety hazard. I left him there, sitting in his own stress secretions, staring at nothing. My datapad pinged about 30 seconds later. Emergency meeting with Commander Snow. Immediate attendance required. This is the part where I apparently became a problem. The meeting wasn't in Commander Snow's office like I expected. Instead, I got redirected to Training Arena 3, which seemed like overkill for what I assumed was going to be a slap on the wrist about unauthorized lunch break activities. Maybe a reminder about proper equipment handling procedures, standard bureaucratic stuff. I walked in to find Commander Snow standing in the center of the circular room, her deep teal skin looking almost black under the overhead lights. She was a solid 7.5 feet tall, with a dorsal crest that put Loxos to shame and 3 golden eyes that tracked my entrance with the kind of focus that made me suddenly understand why she was in charge of a military station. Her webbed hands were clasped behind her back in that way officers do when they're about to ruin your day. Loxo was off to the side, still looking kind of orange around the edges. He'd changed uniforms. The slime-soaked one was presumably in whatever counted as a biohazard bag. But his eyes were doing that rapid blink thing again when he saw me. "Technician Hayes," Commander Snow said. Her voice had this resonant quality, like she was speaking from the bottom of a very deep pool. "Weapons Master Loxo has made some alarming claims about your interaction with the gravity blade." "Oh yeah, sorry about that. I didn't realize it was off limits for maintenance purposes. The work order didn't specify." "You picked it up." "Well, yeah. Had to check the pedestal underneath. Standard procedure when you're diagnosing gravitational field malfunctions." Her throat sac inflated slightly. Just a little. Controlled. "Loxo claims you were holding it with one hand." "Technically 2 hands at different points, but yeah, 1 hand for most of it." I shrugged. "Didn't need both. It's not that heavy." The throat sac inflated more. Loxo made a small whimpering sound. "He also claims," Commander Snow continued, her voice very carefully level, "that you have been juggling it during your lunch breaks." "Oh, yeah, that," I scratched the back of my head. "Look, I know it probably seems unprofessional, but I was using it to calibrate my equipment. It's got this really interesting gravitational signature, and I figured if I could map it precisely enough, I could..." "Show me." I blinked. "Show you what?" "Pick up the gravity blade." She gestured to the side of the arena, where I suddenly noticed the sword sitting on a reinforced stand. When had they brought that in? "I want to see this for myself." Okay. Sure." I walked over to the stand, very aware of 2 sets of Calaxian eyes tracking my every movement. 3 sets, technically, if you counted them individually. Loxo's skin was already shifting back toward orange. I grabbed the handle and lifted the sword off the stand. Same as before. Warm metal, decent weight, bit awkward in the balance. I turned to face Commander Snow. "Like this." Her skin flickered. Just a brief flash of lighter teal, then back to normal. Her throat sac did a weird little pulse. "With 1 hand." "I mean, yeah, it's not..." "Toss it." "What?" "Loxo claims you tossed it. I want to see." Her 3 eyes were completely unblinking now, all focused on me, with an intensity that was honestly kind of unsettling. "Okay, but it's really not that impressive." I flipped the sword up about a foot, caught it. "See? Just checking the balance point." Commander Snow's hands, which had been clasped behind her back, slowly came around to her sides, her fingers flexed. Her dorsal crest stood up slightly. Again. Higher. This was getting weird, but she was the commander. So I tossed it higher. Maybe 3 feet. Caught it cleanly. The weight distribution was actually growing on me. Once you figured out where the center of mass was, it moved pretty predictably. Loxo had backed up against the wall. His skin was definitely orange now. "Spin it," Commander Snow said. "Like, while it's in the air?" "Yes." I tossed it again, gave it a little wrist flick to add rotation. The blade spun once, twice, and I caught it by the handle. Okay, is this going somewhere? Because I really do have that waste recycler issue on deck 9, and if I don't get to it soon, the whole section is going to smell like... Juggle it. I told you, I can only do 2 objects right now. Haven't figured out 3 yet? Commander Snow walked over to a weapons rack on the arena wall and pulled off 2 training batons. They were maybe 2 feet long each, made of some kind of dense polymer. She walked back and held them out to me. Use these. You want me to juggle the sword with training batons? Yes. I looked at Loxo, who had his webbed hands over his face. Probably not going to get help from that direction. All right, I guess. Fair warning, I'm still working on the rhythm. I tucked the sword under my arm and took the batons. They were lighter than I expected. Maybe 2 pounds each. I tossed one up to get a feel for it. Then started the basic cascade pattern. Right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand. Got a steady rhythm going. Then I pulled the sword out and tried to work it into the pattern. The first attempt was pretty sloppy. The sword's weight was different enough from the batons that my timing was off. I had to catch it with my knee and bounce it back up, which made Loxo make that balloon deflating sound again. Sorry. Let me try that again. Second attempt was better. I got maybe 3 full rotations before the sword's weird balance threw me off, and I had to do this awkward behind the back catch to keep it from hitting the floor. This is harder than it looks, I said, concentrating. The trick was to throw the sword higher to compensate for the extra time it took to rotate. Once I figured that out, the pattern smoothed out. Right hand baton, left hand baton, right hand sword, left hand baton, right hand baton, left hand sword. Oh, hey, I think I'm getting it. I looked up at Commander Snow, grinning because I'd finally managed a solid rotation pattern, and immediately lost my concentration. Both batons went flying. The sword was midair. My hands were full of burrito. When had I grabbed my burrito? The sword was falling. I did the only thing I could think of. Stuck my foot out and caught it on the top of my boot. The flat of the blade landed perfectly balanced on my foot. I stood there, one leg extended, a sword balanced on my boot, holding half a breakfast burrito, while 2 training batons clattered across the floor. Ooh, I said. Commander Snow's skin had gone completely pale, like almost translucent pale. I could see the blood vessels underneath pulsing in a way that seemed medically concerning. All 3 of her eyes were wide enough that I was worried they might actually pop out of her head. Her throat sac was inflated to the size of a cantaloupe and just stayed that way. Not inflating, not deflating, just frozen. Loxo had slid down the wall into a sitting position. His skin was cycling through colors so fast, it was basically a strobe light. Red, orange, yellow, blue-green, back to red. His dorsal crest was completely flat against his head. So, I said, still standing on one leg with a sword on my foot. Should I put this down or... Commander Snow's throat sac finally deflated with a sound like a tire losing air. How did you do that? The foot thing? Honestly, mostly luck. I used to play hacky sack in college, so I've got pretty good foot-eye coordination, but timing it with the weight of the... not the foot thing. Her voice had gone very quiet. All of it, the holding, the tossing, the juggling, the... whatever that was. Hacky sack. You are treating the most dangerous weapon in Qualaxian history like a recreational object. I mean, you're the one who told me to juggle it, because I did not think you could. Her throat sac inflated again. No one can do what you just did. It should be impossible. The gravitational forces alone should have torn your arms from your body. The mass should have crushed every bone in your hand, and you are balancing it on your foot while eating a sandwich. Burrito, I corrected, then immediately realized that was probably not the point. Also, I'm pretty sure the mass thing is exaggerated. This is maybe 20 pounds tops. It masses 400,000 kelix. Yeah, Loxo said that, but I really think your scale is broken. I carefully lowered my foot and caught the sword in my free hand. Look, I can hold it out with one hand. If it was really 400,000 of anything, my arm would be on the floor right now. Commander Snow's hands were trembling. Actual visible trembling. Loxo, scan him. Loxo pulled out some kind of handheld scanner with shaking fingers and pointed it at me. He stared at the readout, blinked all three eyes in sequence, looked at me, looked at the scanner, back to me. Commander, he is completely baseline. Baseline what? I asked. Baseline human, Loxo said faintly. No genetic modifications, no cybernetic enhancements, no gravitational field manipulation technology, no localized reality anchors. He is just a human. Yeah, I could have told you that. I filled out the medical forms when I got hired. Commander Snow walked over to the sword stand and sat down on it. Just sat right down like her legs had stopped working. Her skin was still that concerning, translucent, pale color. This is a problem. Is it though? I took another bite of burrito. I mean, I fixed the gravity fluctuations. Work orders complete. Everyone's happy. Everyone is not happy. She looked up at me with all three eyes. Do you understand what this means? If humans can casually wield weapons that our strongest warriors cannot even lift, that changes everything. The power balance of the entire sector. Our defensive strategies. Our okay but counterpoint, I said. I really don't think I'm special. I'm just a maintenance guy. Pretty sure any human could do this if they tried. The color drained out of both Calaxians simultaneously. Any human, Commander Snow repeated. Yeah? I mean, I'm in okay shape, but nothing crazy. Definitely not the strongest person on this station. Loxo made a sound like a dying whale. Commander Snow put her face in her webbed hands. I need to file a report with Fleet Command. About me juggling? About humans being terrifying? She looked up. You are dismissed, Technician Hayes. Do not touch the gravity blade again. In fact, do not touch any weapons in the vault. Just do your maintenance work and try not to accidentally demonstrate any more horrifying abilities. I really don't think it's that. Dismissed. I shrugged, set the sword back on its stand, and headed for the door. Behind me, I heard Loxo asking if they had any sedatives strong enough for Qualaxian physiology. My datapad pinged as I stepped into the corridor. New message from Station Operations. Written reprimand for unauthorized gravity weapon juggling during designated lunch periods. I laughed so hard I almost dropped my burrito. Best worst day ever. Psst.